Okay, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you're listening to this podcast. My special guest today is Paul Kennedy. Paul, how you doing? You keeping okay?
Yes, all good. Thanks. Great to be on. Thank you.
Good stuff, good stuff. Just to get a little bit of a background, Paul, I mean, these Property Success podcasts now in the second series, usually fairly informal. I'll probably ask you a few questions and generally we'll have a bit of a chat just to find out. And it's really about sharing our stories and in the hope that the people that are listening can get some sort of inspiration and motivation and tips or tricks or whatever it happens to be to help them on their property journey, because I mean it's about giving back and sharing. I'm sure you would agree with that, but I've
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I've scribbled a few notes there. I think I remember we met. It was pre-COVID, and how I know it was pre-COVID was because we met at the Mac Theatre. Yourself and your brother Craig
Yeah.
came along in the Mac Theatre days, so it would have been sort of 2018, 19, right about that time, as I say, pre-COVID. And then you met Mary a few times up in Dunsilly and had a few chats about property. And then you started shortly after that. I think you picked up the property in Grace Avenue,
Yeah.
HMO. So, like that was that you diving straight into HMOs or sorry, straight into property, or what? Tell us a wee bit about your background and how you got to that point.
Yeah. First of all, I'm from an engineering background, so very hands-on. Grew up in a family where um, no trade really ever came on site to the house. My parents' house, we all did it ourselves. My dad, my father especially, very, very able in that field, very strong in that field. So we just followed along. It was just assumed that you did all your own work, and did a lot of hands-on stuff ourselves. So the kind of first bit of kind of the real property stuff was we bought her after getting married. We bought a house, and then about 4 or 5 years later decided we want to go buy a bigger house, buy a family house. So we bought a bit of a wreck out in the country. Saw the kind of nice finished houses were lovely, but it didn't really whet our appetite. So wanted to take on a bit of a project. And as kind of even the same in investment space, couldn't afford the end product of the house we wanted, but we kind of have a bit of an idea that maybe we could create the end product and kind of just make it work and put a bit of a graft in. So bought a house out in the country, an old single story farmhouse. Sounds a bit weird, but yeah, single story farmhouse with first of all converted one of the outhouses to live in for a year while we were doing the refurb. So that was just evenings, weekends, any minute you could get, all hands on deck with family. And we lived in there for a year. At the same time, then we refurbed our house, took the roof off, went upstairs, extended out, et cetera, et cetera. And as with maybe most people's self builds, it just kind of as you got a bit more money, you did a bit more. So took a few years to finish that. I guess when it was coming to the end of that, had the bug. It was kind of just working on weekends, evenings. My father, etc., was all geared up to be doing that. And then I really can't remember. I was trying to think back ahead of this, what actually got me to Belfast Property Meet. I think it was a friend Niall Lawler I think he'd just mentioned it. I remember thinking I was working night shift at the time. And I was like, I can't go because I need to be in work for 9 o'clock at night. But anyway, I went along, and then I think the first one or two I just had to duck off a bit early. And it was usually just as the main speaker or whatever was coming. So I think one or two nights I arranged to start work a little late, hung on and listened. And I guess at that stage we were thankful. We had very blessed. We had sort of become an accidental landlord on a property, and the rent was coming in, and we had no kids at the time. We thought, this is great, whatever, £100, a couple £100 or whatever coming in rent, no real bills going out because there wasn't a mortgage rent on it. So that's kind of how we thought. That was the end of it. No more. Don't know. Needed another 100 or 200k to go and buy another house. But then went to Property Meet. and just started hearing about, I think Paul McCoubrey or something, maybe he's talking about mortgages and stuff. And it suddenly twigged that here, you can mortgage your property up to 75%. And that would obviously release a lot of funds. At the same time, my brothers, again, grew up in a household, they were all hands on, and sort of started talking amongst ourselves. Well, if we pulled our funds together, we could maybe do something big or something good. As I say, we each had a rental or two, but weren't really doing too much more than that. And as I say, I think a couple of nights maybe into Belfast Property Meet, must have been towards the end of 2019. I think it was Eddie McRae was talking about HMOs. And at that stage, I say we had done the rentals, done a wee bit of refurbs and stuff, but wanted to maybe look at something a wee bit bigger. Obviously, it was bigger capital funds, and we kind of determined that if we're buying the right house, kind of very low value house, a relatively low value house that's a wreck, we needed cash, obviously, purchase instead of mortgage. So we decided with my brothers to go in and buy the first house, as I say, in East Belfast, Grace Avenue, and just get started on HMOs. Obviously leaning on all the experts, including, a lot of Belfast Property Meet, yourself and Mary, and just really went for it. I think at the time we didn't know, but looking back, we were definitely doing the who, not how. We knew how to do a lot of the building work and the heavy lifting, but we didn't know a huge amount about maybe legislation, even things like room sizes and all that, but we knew kind of roughly what property we were looking at. So that's when we started engaging a lot of the guys in the PSU Belfast Property Meet group, the architects and the mortgage brokers and the planners and things like that, and just kind of kept going, just moved.
You mentioned there, and I was going to say it, the power of networking and stuff like that, and leaning on other people. And you used the term yourself there, leaning on, the likes of Eddie there, very useful to tap into that experience and, what with planning applications and sort of general design and layout. I'm sure you had your own ideas, but it's always good to get someone else that's been maybe doing it for a while longer. Tapping into their knowledge. How valuable was that?
Yeah, that was hugely valuable. And I think the bit we did was we didn't just give it over and sort of let it happen. We gave it over and listened and worked alongside them rather than any of those guys just doing it, which is what I guess he did for us. But we learned as we went, and we wanted to get up and understand why you had to do that and what the rules were. So it meant maybe going down the line, if you're looking for a house, well, this didn't work last time, or it did work last time, so this is the sort of house we're looking for, a sort of layout, sort of room that we're looking for. So that really helped. And at the time as well, we're still, we have family and we're working full time, so it definitely was a wee bit of leverage and use other people's abilities and skills to help us. Obviously, you pay for that, but it's worth it. You accelerate, you learn, you grow, and you keep moving. So definitely, we leaned on a lot of support through the group.
And tell me this: obviously, when you start off and you find out about mortgages and being able to get a bit of capital, and did you have a plan to build a portfolio at the time? And if so, did you face any challenges in getting started and building a portfolio?
Yeah, I guess for the first HMO, it was a case of we have a fair idea what we're doing, we'll jump in. We have a fair idea what the back end looks like. It was a cash purchase, cash refurb, and we knew what kind of the back end looked like in terms of financing out. As I say, there was myself and my two brothers. So we said, look, let's put our funds together and try and do three, and one each, and then we'll see after that. So that's what we've been working away at since. And in terms of what that looked like, we had an idea. We certainly had an idea, but it was a wee bit. We'll as we need a bit more information, we'll speak to the Lewises, we'll speak to the Kyle Lindsays, and et cetera, and just pick up finance, commercial finance, resi finance, and keep moving. And I think that's been a strength usually for us, that we've just kind of not winged it and worked it out. We've been fairly wise and measured in what we do, but we haven't let it paralyze us. We've just kept moving.
I was going to ask you there, because I seem to remember the first HMO you faced a major challenge. Was there not a leak or something happened that you couldn't figure out what was going on for a while, and it set you back a while? How did you deal with that? What was it, first of all, and how did you deal with that?
There was two fairly major issues. Can't remember which way around it was. We had got gas conversion, stripped the old oil tank out, etc. Put gas in the street. When the plumber started the boiler up, a few weeks before we were going to get the house let, I think water came through the gas pipes and went straight through the boiler. Long story short, they said that the connection point for the house outside the house, something the deepest point they had to dig to in Belfast, and I don't know if that's true, but essentially all the water had pulled at the connection point under the road, and that's why the gas line had flooded. I don't know, but basically the front of the house had to be redug up again. We got over that one, and then around the same time, there was the suspended floor, I guess, at the front into the front door. Most houses have suspended floors. In the hallway and the front living room or front bedroom. There was a leak and it was just a pool of water, and I think there'd been a pool of water there for years. But there'd been social housing built next door, relatively new, and the water pipe from what was there before they knocked it down and built it, I think they just doubled it over with a bit of baler twine. The mains water pipe. And we could hear it and see it, but it was way, way, way under there fine. So we lifted our floors again, and it was about maybe 2-3 foot sort of under the party wall. Yeah. They had no interest in fixing it, obviously, because they had their water, no interest. And I think there was no Toby to it. It was part of about 6 houses, so there wasn't a natural way to
turn it off,
to cap it. So it ended up we had to basically sort it ourselves. It was kind of cut the red wire, cut the black wire type scenario to get this thing capped off. So we did a bit of research and a bit of background studying. I think one Sunday afternoon, my father and I had the courage and basically capped it off and got it sorted. But no, it was kind of the case where nobody else wanted to help, not even NI Water. Yeah. It's on your site, you sort it. Next door, it's not on my site, not causing me any problems. So, but it was kind of scenarios like that where you learn, and we're very blessed to have those skills and support from the family. But we didn't let it paralyze us. We learned from it, and just took it as a learning curve. And if it happens again, knowing how to do it or who to speak to.
Yeah, I mean, they say property investing is a lonely journey, and it pays to have other people around you, as you just said there. Family and other people that are doing the same thing. It's a lonely journey because when stuff like that happens and you're on your own, you just feel as if you're totally and utterly on your own. And as you say, NI Water don't want to help because it's inside the property boundary. It's not on the street, and the people next door don't want to help. And even though they're causing the problem or have caused the problem, because it's not causing them a problem now. So it's it's tough. I'm just jumping back a wee bit, Paul. So you'd said that was sort of 2018-19. You're coming along to Property Meet, and then the pandemic came along. How did that knock you for six? Did you just plow on through it? What did COVID do to you?
I think we were panicking a wee bit. I guess we had agreed to property. I'm gonna say January 2020. And I guess at that stage, also my wife was pregnant with her twins. She was 7 months pregnant then. That wasn't good. So in hindsight, they were born a week into lockdown as a start. I was working night shift, which wasn't ideal either. But we had agreed this property at the start of 2020. We were due to take keys maybe April 20. Obviously, COVID hit March time. So everything just in the air. And all we'd heard about HMOs, we'd done a bit of research, we'd been listening to all the guys, Eddie and the other guys, and they're like, these are for young professionals. And we're going, flip, all these guys are getting sent home from the offices to work from home. And is there going to be demand? We were panicking a bit. And I guess it was just because it was our first strategy. But we just kept doing our homework. And, everybody kept saying, build a product, go super high end, stick to what you know, or stick to what you've learned. And the demand will be there. I guess the benefit out of that was we were able to leverage back with the help. Again, this is all networking. We'd started using Thompson Crooks, William Wilson, Raymond Crooks.
Yeah.
All through the group. And they had advice, give me a bit of advice that you might have a bit of leverage here. So long story short, we got another £10,000 off the property, just because of the sheer unknown of what was coming. So I guess that's maybe turned a wee bit of a negative into a positive. It's easy looking back now saying what's the problem, but obviously at that stage, especially like first lockdown, nobody knew what was going on. But we just had a sense to keep moving, keep going. There was other people in the group pushing on and moving on, even in the unknown. So and we sort of said the property had maybe another 10 grand off the property. It was not that it was really cheap, but it was cheap enough that you could probably flip it if really we got the feeling maybe after whatever way COVID was going to go, was it really not going to be a goer? So we kind of kept moving as best we could.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there. People, you don't really have a choice but to keep moving. I remember thinking that with Property Success University, of which you became a member, that people would obviously, COVID comes along, people would down tools, and we had to double down and started doing a few more calls to try and keep people motivated and inspired and allay the fears and stuff like that. And you said that you worried at the time because everybody worried. So at which point then did you sort of think, well, this COVID thing, it's not that bad. It's we're just getting on with it. It's not kind of had the impact we thought it was going to have.
Yeah, I guess to a point it was good to a stage. It slowed the whole purchasing process. So I think we maybe agreed it around January time, and it wasn't until August that we actually got the keys. So on one hand, you're kind of like, this is slowing the whole thing up. The other hand, that was our own money. It wasn't investors' money, so we weren't sitting owing money on something that we weren't really doing anything with. So I think I can't remember the time scales of COVID and all that good stuff, but I think come August time, everything had become a wee bit clearer, and the government was obviously had strategies and kind of things in place. Now I know it didn't go away for a year or two, but it kind of felt like, especially in HMO world, I guess the kind of clients, a lot of them maybe just had to go home, maybe back to maybe their home that they hadn't been for maybe 5-6 years if they were maybe going from uni planning to go straight into HMO. So yes, they maybe had to go home immediately for a couple of months, but it was getting to the stage where these people weren't going to, having lived away from home for maybe 5 or 10 years, they weren't going to stick around, live in their parents' back bedroom for the next 3 years. So I think the market started opening up again, and we were comfortable and, realistically working full time, all of us, and doing an HMO refurb. It wasn't going to be 9 or 12 months anyway, even beyond August 20, before we were going to get it let out. So,
and I suppose another way of looking at it is you sort of fear in the beginning that people are going to go, they're being asked to work from home. They're going to go back to living in their parents' back bedroom or their old bedroom that they used to be in.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were locked down and we were sort of on top of each other, it actually maybe had the reverse effect, and it drove people to go. The people that were living there going, Jesus, I need away from my parents here, and it would create a demand for HMO rooms. So, initially you sort of fear that it's going to have an impact, when actually it could end up having the complete opposite and drive a demand for it. Did you find that?
Yeah, I think. I wasn't in it obviously at that stage in terms of letting rooms out, but the demand started to pick up, and that's what we were hearing, kind of the monthly updates at the property meet, and just speaking to other people, the demand was there. I know people maybe in service accommodation were having to change to maybe slightly longer term, but the whole market generally, people ultimately still needed places to live. So it just depended where the rentals, where the Airbnbs, where the HMOs, and what the market was. But effectively, I think people still needed places to live. So certainly by the time we were finishing, there wasn't really any issue at all. The rooms were snapped up fairly quickly, and on we went.
And you mentioned service accommodation there. Were you in service accommodation at the time, or were you just following the HMO strategy?
Oh, we had done a wee bit of rentals, and we sort of decided we needed a higher yield, or greater cash flow, and we wanted to utilize the skills we had, beyond just rentals. So we felt we were refurb. So the HMO was a natural route. We hadn't really looked at Airbnb SA at all. I guess it was trying to learn one strategy as to start with. The 70-20-10 rule. The HMO was on that 70 bracket for us and still does. So I hadn't really looked much at that stage at all, and hadn't maybe not the time, just the headspace. And we knew some of the regulations and stuff were starting to come in a wee bit in that area. So we kind of stuck with HMO going forward for certainly the next while.
And I suppose you were lucky that you were in an HMO, using the HMO strategy and not like bogged down in SA. You were lucky that you weren't doing the 70% SA at the time, because I think people freaked out. You know, we hear stories about Dave Cordner running an SA business and pretty much, I don't mean wiped out, but certainly turnover just dropped off a cliff overnight as soon as these announcements were made. Bookings were cancelled and stuff. So you sort of dodged that bullet there. But then I think you got into SA after that. Have you dipped your toe in the water?
Yeah, we have one SA unit. It was kind of the same model of buy an absolute wreck and do it up. And I guess we not fell into, we've been learning creative strategies, and up until that point, I say it was just family, funds, the three brothers kind of pulling funds together and keep moving. And at that stage, I was just chatting to more people, and people kind of knew what we did, and we were doing a bit of Instagram, kind of sharing what we did, and kind of just documenting our journey, I guess.
Getting out there.
And a friend of a friend kind of dropped me a message, said, "I found this house. Do you want to come and see it?" And I went down to look at it. Went down to look at it and was like, "This is great." Exactly the sort of stuff. Walked in, there was trees growing in the front living room. The 2 foot of flooring had all been dug out. Somebody had obviously started up. And that's the sort of properties we like. We always say the properties that everybody walks out of immediately we walk in. And he said, yeah. And I said, I think I was just almost offering a wee bit of help and support. I said, do this, this, and this. And he says, what would the refurb cost? And I says, well, I don't know, something to this effect. And he says, what do you think? And I says, well, look, I've no money. My money's tied up in a couple of HMO projects at the minute. I can't really help you, or like I can't buy this. So long story short, they weren't maybe overly knowledgeable in terms of refurb work. They had an idea and they knew the power of property. So we basically, long story short, came to the agreement that we would JV, and it was almost just fell into it. But I'd heard a lot about it in like a Belfast property meet. So they basically bought it and funded it, and I did all the work. And then we split it 50-50 out the back end. So essentially, the harder I worked and the more money we saved in the project, the quicker I started taking in earnings out of the property, if that makes sense. So
I remember being in it. Sorry to interrupt, Paul. I remember being in it. You'd asked me to come and do an EPC towards the end, and you'd told me, the condition it had been in, and I remember thinking you'd done a really good job. It was a neat and tidy and well presented. At that point, I can't remember. Were you going to flip it on, and you changed your mind to do SA, or was the plan to do the SA all along?
A bit of money and a flip. We certainly weren't doing SA when we first kind of agreed to it. I just thought, it could either be a rental and you get most of your money out, like, try and keep the refurb down to 75% of the total new value. So kind of get all your money out or close to it. And then just as we started exploring, I was at the stage, I guess, we weren't really, SA was hardly even on our radar, maybe is the best way to describe it up till that point. And then I just started hearing more about SA and was like, I wonder if this would work as SA, and started checking out as AirDNA and a couple of other things and asking some of the Airbnb management companies. And it was just a way to basically supercharge your income. And we started looking down that route, and then that just obviously changed a wee bit. You maybe go a wee bit more high end in your refurb, and obviously you have to stage it and think slightly differently about who your client is. So that was something new for us, A, in terms of Airbnb, and B, in terms of JVing with a business partner. So that's been up and running probably just over a year now. And it's been going really.
And the area, because it wasn't in Belfast, and I know people sort of get a wee bit nervous if they're doing stuff outside Belfast. What you just checked it out and found that there was a demand in the area, and said, let's do this.
Yeah, and to an extent, what we've been kind of learning and hearing from, obviously there's certain places there literally is no demand, but if there's a good infrastructure and you do a high enough, good enough product, you should stand out and there should be demand there. It's not as simple as that, obviously, but everything we worked at up until that stage, it was always do a really good product. We planned to hold everything long term, so we always essentially was back to brick almost. So the product you held, you knew was going to be easily maintained, but we always did a good product. So it was just researching it, and it's kind of like anything. It's networking and understanding what demand is, who's going to help me, who's maybe going to manage it, who has experience in the area or even in the industry, and what do we need to kit it out for, who's more likely clientele, etc. And that was a big learning curve for us as well.
And are you self-managing it, or?
No, we have a management company in town that runs it, and we have been totally hands off from it. And props to them, those guys, and I'm sure other management. But
it saves you the headaches of the phone calls and the Friday and Saturday nights and stuff like that.
For us at the moment, certainly it's not worth our time. We've got all getting on with and family as well. So.
And you mentioned there about doing a refurb and you stripped it back to the brick. I think sometimes people are a wee bit reluctant to go the full hog with a refurb and strip it back to the brick when actually the house needs stripped back to the brick. People tried to do a botch job, and you said that the benefit of stripping it back to the brick is maintaining it thereafter. Whereas I've saw other people, and over the years, this property needs a refurb. Oh no, just give it a lick of paint and some carpets, and you just know that it's a sort of ticking time bomb. Was that the way you thought about it, or that's just the way it happened?
Yeah, and I guess for us in general, we always, I guess maybe as upbringing, we always did things right. You took the extra time to do the right thing, maybe not even in property, just in life. And we don't tend to shortcut anything. And we find it's worked in life up until that point. And that's what we wanted to follow through with, especially we were just, and we still are, we're constantly building our portfolio for cash flow. So we're holding everything. And I guess it's easiest to do all that work when the thing's stripped back. We don't want to be coming in 5 years' time having to replace a plumbing system or a leaky pipe or something. Should have been replaced at the time when maybe the ceilings were down. So it's just been a fairly default way of doing it. I guess we've purposely bought the cheapest, most run-down properties, so you don't feel like you're ripping money out by buying a house that's maybe kind of half good. And you kind of save it because you feel like you've paid for some of the goodness of it. You sort of got the feeling that we were just buying walls and a roof and a structure. After that, you knew everything else. You didn't really mind if you're ripping out because you hadn't really paid for it in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you said there about sort of how you do things in life, and it reminded me of that statement. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're going to do things right, you might as well do things right all the time as do them 50% of the time, and then suffer with problems the rest of the time. Good stuff, Paul. And obviously, you'd set yourself some goals. You talked about cash flow there. What's happened since then in terms of HMOs? Because I know you've bought a few more since then, and you're now on your own. So you mentioned there yourself and your brothers were going to do one each. So you've done that bit, and you've moved on. You're doing your own things now, I believe.
Yeah, so the initial first three was the kind of a bit of I'm not sure if we planned it this way, but a bit of a natural progression, maybe through the HMO route. So first one was 5-bed, 2 separate bathroom. The next one was 5-bed, 3 en suites and 2 rooms sharing. And then the last one was a bigger 6-bed, all en suite. So we've kind of worked our way through, I guess, if we want to keep that momentum. It needs to go larger rooms and commercial type stuff, but that was the 3 we did with the brothers, and all kind of East Belfast, the usual spots. I guess at that stage, myself and my wife were really getting involved. We had started, I think it was the second or third one, we'd run out of cash, as most people do. And we'd started learning and hearing, and how do people keep moving? Like, not everybody self-funds their big portfolios. Not everybody's a millionaire. What do they do? So learned a bit about private finance and what that can do for you. Working with private investors. So Raised our first private investment with second or third project. Myself and wife had kind of found an investor, chucked in, I think it was 50 grand or something to keep us moving. And that kind of light bulb went off for myself and my wife. We really enjoyed it. It was long hours. We were doing it both on top of jobs and with kids, but we knew kind of what it was building ourselves towards the future. So we decided to jump in really 2 feet by ourselves, as well as some of the stuff we're doing with the brothers. Bought another two in North Belfast. And again, using private investment to allow us to do that. And then we've just finished the two of them in the last month or two, along with the big 6-bed. And then we have another 3 purchased again with private investment, with a 4th one hopefully coming here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And just being really jumping 2 feet in. Myself and my wife sort of talked about, it's going to be a bit of a strain or a bit of a lot of commitment and time on us, and we sort of set ourselves a bit of a 3-year kind of goal, or 3 years time frame. That things are going to maybe be difficult or challenging, or we're not going to live the nice family lifestyle that everybody wants and sees. It's going to be a wee bit of a push and a strain, but it's all for setting ourselves up for the future and getting ourselves in a good position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said they're twins in the first week of lockdown, was it? Rachel had twins, so they're only a few years old. If you've a 3-year plan to go, they're just about to start at school by that point, and you end up with financial freedom, and you have a lot more choice. I mean, in terms of lifestyle, I mean, we sort of covered property, a lot of property there. What do you do to relax? Because you're obviously busy. I mean, you've said there that you're non-stop. You were working night shift, going to property meets, doing HMOs. Do you switch off? And if so, what do you do to switch off?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I don't share loads of stuff on Instagram. I don't share everything what I do, move and eat. But I try to be open and honest and share the realities of property. And a lot of people do ask me, you're dedicated, you're this, you're that. When do you ever stop? And I guess even up till now, there's probably not. If I'm honest, there's not maybe the greatest balance. I'm getting better at it. I'm learning to leverage a wee bit more, and we've built, like everybody hopefully does. You kind of work through some good and bad trades and help, and people that can help you, and you kind of build a bit of a team you can rely on. So we certainly have got a wee bit more help and support in that, and we don't have to do everything. In terms of relaxing, and I genuinely, maybe different, genuinely just the background, I genuinely do enjoy working at houses and doing refurbs. I like the donkey work and the dirt and the creating. But obviously, yourself, there's days you just go, what am I doing? I need to get out of here. But I guess I get on very, very well with my father, and we both be at it. We work alongside each other. So I genuinely do enjoy that. I do enjoy fitness. I do look to get out of the house a couple of times a week and run. Done a few marathons. I've got a marathon at the end of this year. And I've signed up to a sprint triathlon in a few weeks' time. So I've been doing a lot of swimming and cycling and running. So I find that enjoyable to snap out of it, and actually, you get clarity. I find myself, I get a lot of clarity in what's next, or what's the priority, whereas you're in the mire of maybe the day job, and you're then on the site at night and up early in the mornings, whatever it is, you can be clouded. Just time with my family. Family's huge for me. Family's huge.
Absolutely. I was going to say there, like, highly motivated. What do you do to get yourself motivated in the morning, or does it just happen? Do you have any rituals, or do you meditate? Do you do anything that tries to help you relax or help you get switched on, or whatever, at either end of the day?
Yeah, I guess my wife will tell you I'm just all go. I don't need much motivation. I probably more so need somebody in my ear, usually my wife, in a very, very good sense, that it's okay to slow down a wee minute, you
Yeah.
know. I'm not sure. Maybe at times I heed those warnings or those, but
So, what is the driver, Paul? We always ask the question. It's one of the first things that when I meet people, why property? What's driving you? What's motivating you?
yeah, I guess first and foremost is that I genuinely enjoy it, and I've really enjoyed actually the people that I've met and surround myself with. But for us mainly, it's the financial freedom part. It's a future for our kids, and flexibility and what that looks like going forward. So
Choices.
choices, yeah. We're not sure what that looks like in the longer term, but we just want to have that ability to make the choice, and when or if that with that when or we want. So it's just, and I'm very careful that this can't, this pace and this, speed and sacrifice isn't a long term thing, and it won't and it can't become normal. It's for a period of time, and then we have an idea of what we want and how to evaluate that going forward. So, yeah, I genuinely enjoy it. I do enjoy the buzz, and I love the seeing the potential and what can be made and what can be built. But as I say, it's a thing for our family. Family's huge for us, and time with our families what we chase all the time.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I know we've been running now about 45 minutes, and that's usually where the sort of time scale I aim for it. So just a couple of off the cuff questions, couple of strange questions that aren't property related. I mean, we've covered the property, we've covered the motivation, we've covered the why, we've covered what drives you, et cetera, et cetera. I've got a few questions here. Which one will I pick? Which one will I pick? What is your go-to order at your favorite restaurant? Weird question.
Um, we have an Indian about half a mile up the road from our house, which actually was particularly helpful when we were building the house. Usually, run out of money, you're just calling your mates favors. So it was usually come and do a day's labor for us, and we'll get an Indian on the way, a carry out.
Is that the one on the Ballyrobin Road?
Up at Spice at the airport. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Spice. Yeah. I used to go to it all the time until they opened one nearby, and I haven't been. It's still as good, I assume.
Still very, very good. So it'll be some sort of Indian dish. I try not to default to chicken korma because I know it's probably not even a proper Indian. It's just me, us Westerners. But yeah, something like a korma and naan is usually hits the spot on a Saturday evening.
Good stuff. Is there anything you're curious about in the world at the minute?
Without trying to be switched off, what I've learned from a lot of successful people in property, including yourselves, is I don't tend to get too involved or too focused on media, news, all that good stuff. Obviously, as a good citizen and person, I have an idea of what's going on, but I don't let a huge amount affect me. In terms of what's going on, I do have a passion for traveling. I haven't done a huge amount. In recent years, myself and my wife would have done a lot more before the kids came along. So, travel and learning and seeing new cultures is something I really want to do going forward in the next kind of 5 to 10 years and beyond, and be able to take my kids and share with them. And we've visited some stunning places in the past, and I want to maybe continue doing that going forward.
Yeah. Funny, I was at the gym this morning, and I was talking I don't know how the conversation came up, and I talked about the meaning of life and why we do things. And I think life's about experiences, and part of that is traveling and seeing new places, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, etc., etc. Because I would share that too. That's something that I want to do, because I just don't like to be stuck in the same thing over and over again. I will do it as long as there's some sort of end goal. But I'll just finish up, Paul. Listen, I thank you very much. Been lots of takeaways in that for people. Is there anything I should have asked you but I didn't?
No. I've just been grateful for all the people I've met and experience, and learned from, and experienced help and support from, and hopefully, through mainly through Instagram and social media and stuff that I'm on.
Yeah.
I'm always keen to try and help give back and learn. And I see people where we're at, and some people show a drive, and maybe others not so much. But people that contact me and ask for help, I'm always open to try and help and support and give a wee bit of direction. And see them succeed. Okay, Northern Ireland, Belfast, small place, but I certainly think there's enough opportunities out there if you want to chase after them and work hard for it. Certainly,
absolutely. On that note, Paul, listen, thank you very much. I know you probably think that flew by, but we were on there the guts of 50 minutes, and I don't like to have them too long because podcasts are meant to be short, but these are a different kind of podcast. It's hard to try and interview or have a chat with somebody in short sound bites of 15 minutes. So listen, thank you very much, Paul. I shall see you again very soon.
All the best. Thanks.